Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly present our spectacular show of podcast magic and imagination full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn Dave and David Dollar.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dave.
It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast, episode number 141. We're close to 150, by the way, which I feel like
I know
150 is kind of not as big a deal as 200 or 100, but 150 is kind of
in
the
big deal.
It's a middle deal.
It's a middle deal. It's like it's kind of a big deal.
I mean, it's
like Ron Burgundy,
episodes. Right? I mean, yes, Jen's kind of a big deal around here. Don't you guys know this?
Oh gosh.
So welcome back to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. We've got a fun little episode here. We're going to be talking about, we're not talking about All-Stars because Jenn, and I quote, I want to make sure we talk about something that I know for a fact exists. So
wait, when did I say this?
Am I paraphrasing maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. He quotes me a lot, and I don't remember saying some of it.
We will be talking about Pop Century, however, kind of a resort overview. And I love this resort. I love the history behind it. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But first, Jenn, how did you Disney this week?
Gosh, I probably can't use the fact that I was just in Disney. Like, I'm guessing that probably.
I mean, that's kind of every other week. You're like,
I know,
Disney,
but I do go a
lot. You do?
I do go a lot. Well, okay. So I am drinking out of one of my, this is from my most recent conference. This is my Disney water bottle. It's kind of mermaidy. So that is how I am currently Disneying, aside from vaguely making plans for the end of the month. Because it is now February. So
it is February.
We are going down the end of February. So I did vaguely make
You're going down in you mean the mid-February trip? Well, end, I guess.
What mid-February? I don't have a mid-February. It's like in the 20s.
I guess it's the end of trip. 22nd to 26th.
Yeah, like that's the end of February.
Yeah, because February's over the 28th.
Yeah. So that's literally the end.
My 19th wedding anniversary is the 28th, which I'm excited about.
Oh, congratulations.
Which then we're on the road to 20, which is a big deal, obviously. And so I know, right? Stephanie has put up with me for 19 years.
Oh my gosh, Stephanie.
Well, actually,
you're a saint.
21 years because there was 2 years of dating beforehand.
I was going to say, you probably dated. I mean, that usually happens. So.
I mean, but I know people that have, they met, they went out on a date. 6 weeks later, they were married. And I know people like this, that they've been married for 23, 24 years now. And so,
hey,
it happens. It happens.
It does.
Of course, so more power to them. I don't know that Stephanie, the first time I asked my dear wife out on a date, she didn't realize she was saying yes to a date. She thought I was asking her to hang out with everybody. And so when I just picked her up, she was like, oh, it's just you. Okay. All right.
So you tricked her. Okay.
I didn't trick her. I did not trick her at all. It was a straight up like, hey, would you like to go out? And yes. You're asking me. Okay, so that was fun. But I, of course, am wearing my Pop Century jersey here, my Pop Century hoodie. It's a little cool outside. I think it's like 44 degrees here. I'm assuming it's much colder there up in Amish country where there is no heat and you're having to churn the butter to get the energy flowing.
There is freezing. It's freezing.
Yeah.
It's like 20 degrees today. I think currently it's extremely cold.
Well, I had dining early this morning. I was helping out with a client, with somebody else getting their dining done, and I was done at like 5:20 in the morning. And I'm like, I don't have to get the kid up for an hour. I can't go to bed for 45 minutes because I'll never get up.
Yeah,
so,
like that. That's a bad scene right there if you attempt that.
I threw on a sweatshirt, had my shorts on, and I just went out for a run. This morning at 5:30, and
bless.
It was about 38 degrees, but it was fun. I knocked it off my list. That was my daily list, moving or running or getting moving, whatever. That's one of the things. I knocked it off the list. It was good. It was awesome.
Nice.
So it was cold.
Nice. Well, it's freaking cold. It's supposed to be like, I want to say the high on Friday is 18.
Nice.
I think that's the high, or maybe that's tomorrow. It's tomorrow or Friday. I can't remember which.
Winter is finally here.
Don't be pretty excited about that, weirdo.
And I'm getting set for my cruise, which is next week. I fly down to Orlando on Sunday. I'll be there for the night and then be at the airport on Monday morning, which I catch the shuttle over to Port Canaveral, get on the Disney Wish for the week. We got our itinerary. A lot of free time, a lot of good time. to be able to do things. And
well, you want to experience the ship.
No, I'm going to be all over that ship.
Yeah.
I'm going to be taking pictures of everything and video and just exploring.
Absolutely.
And, it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about this. And so yeah, I got a cabin of my own, a balcony. I can't wait to put my laptop on the balcony and do a little bit of work because Jen's a slave driver. I got to work, and so yeah, it'll be fun. Let's do some stuff that we haven't done in a couple of weeks now. Let's get to some news. Nothing breaking so far. I mean, we've got a lot of little news hits here, so nothing, no big announcement like they've officially given us the date for the What's Beyond the Spires. Now it's going to open in 2035 or something. Nothing like that. Josh hasn't called. Little small hits here though. The Disney Photopass outfits are changing. Now, this is only newsworthy because, first of all, they're going to green shirts.
Okay.
Remember, they used to be like beige and stuff.
They are like beige. It's like a vest.
And
like
sometimes they were into the beige vest with like the gray shirt. It was
gray
like,
shirt,
sometimes indistinguishable from the crowd. You're trying to find a
no, that's true. They can be hard to pick out.
Now they're not a neon green, but they are a brighter green top.
Okay.
It's recycled material, and it's also designed to control moisture and will help protect from the sun's rays.
Like dry fit, like maybe
something
like SPF, like dry fit.
Which
okay.
I just like it because you'll be able to spot them in a crowd. Because a lot of times you're in a photopass situation. You're like, I would love a photopass photographer to take a picture. There's one over there. Come on over. This is great. So that's really, really cool. However,
that's
you
awesome.
will not see them in two places, including the reopening of Ariel's Grotto, where you can meet Ariel.
Oh, okay.
So that has reopened recently, and also now over in the Storybook Circus, which Pete's Silly Sideshow has reopened with characters where you can meet Madame Daisy Fortuna, the Astounding Donaldo, the Great Goofini, and Minnie Magnifique. Go in. It's really kind of cool, but you can go just 1, 2, 3, 4, doom, 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 knock all
right in a row.
But unfortunately, they have the Photopass boxes where it takes your picture, takes a couple of pictures for you there.
They're doing that with Mickey too, aren't they?
I think so too. I hate those things.
I really don't like those.
I hate them. And the reason I hate them, not because the pictures are fine.
Yeah,
but
it's okay.
And some Photopass photographers you'll just take a picture here and a picture there. You'll kind of get some good pictures, whatever.
Right.
But there are some that I've been frequently a part of some experiences where the Photopass photographer will take 15 pictures, and not just the posing with the characters, but they'll take the talking to the characters. They'll take pictures of the hugs. If you got a small child, they got a picture of the 2-year-old walking up to Goofy, just kind of standing there like in awe, like, you're so bad,
right.
Getting those candid moments that you can't just take. And so I miss that. I do miss that. So
yeah,
Josh, I know you're listening. I know the execs are listening. Seriously, let's get some Photopass people in there. Nobody.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I understand at one point if you have to make decisions, but it's just not as personal, and I prefer not. Other than like the cool like zoomy in shots, which I know those are a box, but
those are a box. But the Photopass
you have to
is
do
also running that too.
Right.
So when you're taking those zoom shots in Animal Kingdom, you're not just walking up, pressing a button or whatever.
Yes.
Somebody's actually controlling that after he's taken your picture 15 times in various poses with magic shots.
Magic shots. So like
exactly. Which you don't find the boxes with magic shots. You find the boxes with characters, and it's just annoying to me. I mean, I feel like basically what we could do here is just get rid of Genie Plus. That money you're dedicating to Genie Plus, pay some Photopass photographers. Problem solved. Boom. Demolition has begun in 2 areas down the road at Universal. The Woody Woodpecker Kids Zone, where the Curious George thing was, and
that's right.
Whatever, all that's gone. That's all now being taken out, completely leveled. No idea what's going there, but we are seeing DreamWorks characters' pictures on the walls.
Yes.
With no reference of this is coming, blah blah blah. So I'm guessing
it wouldn't surprise me though.
No, if I had to guess, maybe a small ride based on a DreamWorks character, maybe some meet and greets with I can't remember the How to Train Your Dragon's character's name, not the dragon, but the kid.
The kid.
Hiccup. Is it Hiccup? Yeah. Whatever. So I can imagine meet and greet, stuff like that. That would be fun. Also, the cranes have arrived at Splash Mountain. Wasting no time, they have begun to take the mountain. They're not going to take the mountain down, but they are going to take part of it out as they start working on the mountain. So
they're going to have to in order to do some of those things. I mean, because
they're going to gut it. They're going to get the whole.
Yeah, we saw some of the construction getting started. It was so weird to have pictures of like the empty queue, and there's like like you can see boxes and like stacks of things.
Yeah, and I'm already seeing people on eBay who have stolen props and stuff, trying to sell some props. I'm really hoping that Disney goes after them and prosecutes them for theft. because you just don't do that. You just can't do that.
What props are you seeing on? No, you tell me later.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Tell me later. It doesn't matter. People were selling Splash Mountain water.
I was going to say that.
So I mean, that is not really.
And I was astounded by that. I'm like, Splash Mountain water. I've seen some in Ziploc bags. I've seen some in mason jars. It was funny because if you go on eBay and look for them, you'll see the same picture with the same hand holding up the same bottle, and you'll see the same fingernail polish, like in multiple pictures with multiple different sellers. And
like,
it's
they just have like a jar, and then they just like divvied it into little.
I don't understand that. I'm like, how do you authenticate that? How do you even?
Well, you can't.
And let's just say that I could prove it. Let's just say that Jen, you sent me a bottle of Splash Mountain water, and
which I did not.
I got some. You did not. You don't. And I promise you, this is not about code for anything. Jen did not send me anything like that.
I did not.
But let's just say you did. Let's just say, I picked this up from Splash Mountain. I have it. I wanted to give you some, so here it is. And I have a mason jar full of splash water with a label on it on my mantle. Even though I trust you and I know it's authentic because you told me it's authentic, nobody's going to believe that.
No.
Nobody is going to. It's not like people are going to walk in my house going, wow, look at you really got some water. That's awesome. And it's sitting right next to the cucumber you stole from Living from the Land. No. There's no point in this, and people are
the rotted cucumber, which is basically turned into water
and people are getting 70, 80 bucks, $90 for this water, and I'm like, oh well, look at here, I've got a whole bottle of water from Pirates of the Caribbean. It smells like chlorine pool water, and so look at this. You can buy it I'll sell it to you for $20.
I don't even want to know what was in that water. I mean, it's drained now, so there's nothing in the water because there is no water.
Well, and I've seen pictures too of like a Ziploc bag that was sealed with water in it and a Sharpie, Splash Mountain, taken on January the 23rd or whatever. Honestly, I would believe that over the mason jar because I feel like that is somebody that dipped it out, wrote it out real quick, and sealed it up and took a picture versus somebody who packaged it in a mason jar.
I mean, listen, to each their own. If that makes you happy, more power to you, I guess.
But hey, the guy who went around drinking all the fountain water and got banned from Disney, now he can do it legally because he can buy some Splash Mountain water and try it on his own. Good for you, my friend. Good for you. The Runaway Railway, Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, is now open at the El Capitan Theater. The official Mickey's Toontown reopens on March 27th, I believe. But they've reopened.
I think
Mickey
you're correct.
Runaway Railway, and it looks fabulous. The ride itself is the same, but the theater is set up for the queue. So you're, instead of like the queue that we have at Walt Disney World, which is fine, which is the old school, that it's basically the space from the Great Movie Ride. We kind of have some of the switchbacks and stuff. The queue that I've seen pictures of out there is fantastic. It's like a movie theater concession area, and it's amazing. And I'm just like, once again, Disney World's the cash cow. We're paying the bills. Disneyland gets the cool stuff. That queue is so cool. And out here, I'm like, look at this with some switchbacks. And this was one of the last rides to have the dividers up on the fence on the railways and for COVID. And just I love Runaway Railway. I love the pre-show. I do. I love the effect where the wall blows open and stuff like that. But then that's it. That's the whole part of the queue. And I'm like, can we not get a cool queue? Or
but it is the Chinese theater. It is the Grauman's Chinese Theater, which has it has that nostalgia from the Great Movie Ride. So it's like that's the nod back to what it used to be.
But it's a theater, so you can easily have some of those same kind of things, those concessions and those basically the cool thing about it out there is there's all these Easter eggs planted in everything from the labels of the candies to what's on the walls. They have these, I don't know if you've seen the pictures, the 6 or 7 movie posters that are on the walls that look amazing, like the Mouseketeer, and it's like Mickey Mouse from the Rocketeer, and it's got the angry
posters in they have the posters in the Graumans,
but not like this. Not
well,
like
they're not the same. They're not the same.
These posters are super cool. Just agree with me, Jen. They're cooler out there.
I don't know. I mean, it's just different. It's apples and oranges. It's similar.
It's okay. It's okay. Just about a minute and a half ago, I heard you say the words, I believe that you're right. So I'll just gonna go with that.
Oh gosh.
Tron Lightcycle Power Run opens April the 4th. And we now have the canopy lights that are on, the lights at night that are blinking and everything. I saw the broadcast from Disney Parks.
And it runs in the evening, it's usually running through, even during the day.
There's like 12 or 1,300 lights they were synchronizing. I saw the video from Disney Parks. The Imagineers were synchronizing the lights.
Cool.
It looks amazing. As we expected, virtual queue only. or individual lightning lane attraction of individual selection or whatever we're calling it only. So basically, for the uninitiated, you either have to get on at 7 a.m. in the morning and get your lightning lane to get into the to purchase, or do a virtual queue at 7 a.m. And remember, if you're off property, you can get into the virtual queue, but you're not going to be able to get into it.
But you're not going to be able to. Yeah, it's going to be
7 o'clock and 4 seconds. It will be gone.
Yeah.
So if you're off property, you're not able to purchase or not able to get into those queues until.
I mean, you might be able. You might be able
to purchase.
No, you cannot purchase it off property until
in the parks.
Correct. And I imagine, at least for the first few weeks, I imagine there's no way. Kind of like Rise of the Resistance sells so fast.
I mean, I was 3 trips in before I got to ride Rise of the Resistance at Disney World. Like, it was just, I couldn't get it. I could not get it. And finally we got like boarding group 120 or something like that. So just, we're going down at the end of March. Our family, we're going to be missing this by 3 days. I'm hoping they'll have some soft openings.
They might.
Hoping we can get in.
Never know.
We'll get in. But also what they're doing is something taken from Universal. They're doing a locker system. And it's basically set up with your Magic Band or your card or your Magic Mobile, whatever. It's a little locker. You got to store all your backpacks, your purses and stuff. Now, notice you can take your phones and keys and wallets on the ride, but there's a compartment on the vehicle right in front of you. You open up, you put your stuff in there, and you close the compartment. And I imagine they will be, especially for the first month or two, they will be looking for phones. They're probably going to want to see your hands to make sure you're not holding on to anything.
Yeah. Because that would be dangerous. Like, that could legit be dangerous.
Very dangerous. Well, Universal does this too, and they actually demand everything goes in a locker. And
everything.
They're
like you walk through a metal detector before
like
you get on
over there.
Like Rip Ride Rocket. Like you
Rip Ride Rocket, Hulk,
I mean, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because if you've got a key fob with 17 Toyota keys falling out of your pocket, hitting somebody on the ground, that's horrible. Or you could lose your phone in the water with a Velocicoaster or whatever. But
at those speeds, like if it would hit somebody, like you could actually kill somebody.
Right. I mean, it would, or you give you a concussion, it would hurt really, really, really
I mean,
badly.
Regardless, like you just don't want to risk that. So apparently it won't be quite that intense where you have to have everything out, but I'm sure the pouchy thing, whatever it is going to be designed.
Well, what I saw is like a little closed compartment. Like you open the latch, opens the compartment up, put your stuff and
see,
close
there you
it. So it's not like a pouch like Everest or anything. It actually is a closed little door.
But if you look at those cycle things, like there would be nowhere to store, like unlike, let's say,
there's no one on the side or
Guardians.
anything.
There's nowhere to store your bag. You know.
And so that's coming with the lockers and stuff. And I imagine we will see this happen with other bigger rides. It wouldn't shock me for them to go back and do that with Guardians and say, "Here, we're putting in a locker system so you can't carry your bags on and stuff." It might be too late for that, but
I don't think that it's a problem though with Guardians. Like
that's true. It is an enclosed. You're right. It's an enclosed vehicle.
It's an enclosed vehicle. I've taken my lounge fly or whatever. Brady has a bag. It's not been an issue on Guardians.
Yeah, because with the Tron Lightcycle, you're actually sitting on a bike. You're sitting on an actual. You're straddling a bike, like if you were at Flight of Passage, except the Banshee was a bike.
Right. And the difference with Flight of Passage is they have that little storage container behind you because you're not
the whole
going
thing,
anywhere.
You're 8 bikes in a row and the whole thing is moving together. I mean, there was a danger, obviously, it could fall off in front of you onto the ground, which probably wouldn't hit anybody, but you would lose it forever. The way that the systems is set up. Like, okay, hide the kids, close the kids' ears, don't ruin the magic. As you're sitting on the bike, when the screens come up and you're watching the screen, if you look down and around you, you see everybody else. Yeah. And so there is an open space down there that I think that things could fall because.
But if it's behind you in that, I don't.
No. I'm saying
that part is stationary.
I'm saying like even if for some reason you had a phone in your hand or something, whatever.
In your hand? Oh, gotcha. If you had it in your hand. Oh yeah.
You're not going to kill anybody.
I was like, from the shelf. I don't think that's going anywhere.
That's a bumpy ride.
I was like, shoot, I don't know what's going on at Flight of Passage if that's happening.
Do you think they might change the movie a little bit to incorporate some of the aspects of the newest movie, Way of Water?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if eventually they did. I mean, because think about it with Star Tours. I mean, they were easily able to accommodate and adapt that ride. Once they went to the sequences, they could mix stuff in. It wouldn't surprise me eventually.
I think so. My opinion on Way of Water, I think that they didn't do it for this one because they were unsure exactly how this was going to perform. And honestly, on my movie podcast, the Deucecast Movie Show, I issued an open apology to James Cameron because I really thought this movie would not do well. Harboring doom for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th sequels, they would all go to Disney Plus and just be there. This movie has done gangbusters. It's
people are loving it.
It's beaten Top Gun in gross revenue, and it's massive. It's one of the 5 or 6 biggest movies in history. So now that ensures the third one. So I imagine for the third one, they're going to change some of the video to incorporate the aspects of it. They probably didn't do it for this one because that's a long lead time. Plus, it's like,
well, you want to see how it's going to go.
Exactly.
And then,
if it's a disaster, we can't change it back immediately or whatever. So,
right. I mean, you could keep the old movie, but yeah, I think that might be something that we eventually see. I mean, I'm sure it's not like it's a cheap change, but you don't have to change massive elements. You're changing the video. You're changing the video experience.
Would you be in favor of it doing something where it's like 3 or 4 different rides, as in 3 or 4 different, like you're not sure of,
like it's randomized,
kind of like Star Tours, although Star Tours has a central opening and closing.
Absolutely.
But with this one, you would take off and you would end up going to a different part of Pandora, or maybe over the water or something like that. Versus, I think that would be cool.
No, I think that would be really cool. Yeah. I mean, I love it as is. It's a great attraction. Yes. It has not lost anything for me, but I do think that would be a cool way to plus it up, because there are multiple, what do you want to say? Like, I mean, there's multiple areas that you go to load. Now, granted, everybody's watching the same screen.
Right.
So, I mean, it would just have to be like, okay, this time it's showing this one, this time it's showing this one, but like with randomized secret. I mean, they do that with Tower of Terror. That's randomized. Star Tours is randomized. I'm sure it's a lot of programming and a lot, would go behind it, but it would be a cool idea for when they're ready to do something there.
So probably not some 20-year-old guy named Caleb on his iPhone just controlling everything. Well, actually, probably might be that simple.
I mean, I don't know. It might be.
I have an iPhone 15, man. I can do it.
Who knows?
I'll be at Planet Hollywood, and I'll be having my burger, and I'll take care of it. I got it.
Like, I got this.
So that's all for the news. Let's talk a little bit of pop. Pop Century is a resort that is in the value category. They have queen beds. They refurbished this thing in 2018, so they're all queen beds now. It's this was the first of the new style of value resorts where you have the queen beds. One is the Murphy bed that goes up and down. They hard floors. I don't want to say hardwood floors because it's not wood, but it's hard floors. A lot of open space under the bed. The whole bathroom's been kind of stylized, for that whole Pop Century feel. Little kitchen area, plugs and USB ports everywhere, which is now the first thing I look at when I go into any hotel room. I'm like, where's the plugs? Where are the USB ports? That honestly that goes a long way for me to setting up how much I like the resort. Where can I plug in? I got chargers to plug in. I got to plug my phone in. I got to plug my laptop in. Where can I plug in? So it's a big deal. Now, Jen, have you ever stayed in Pop Century? Other question is, when was the last time you actually were at Pop Century in any capacity? Just dropping off, picking up, walking in, seeing something, touring, whatever.
Does the sky wait? No, I didn't go on.
You wouldn't go to this either for the
no,
Skyliner.
No. I was trying to think. I was like, no, it's Caribbean Beach. You go to at the Skyliner.
Yeah,
I was like,
Pop Century's the last stop. You're not going there unless you're going there.
Yeah, never.
That's hilarious. I love it.
I don't think I'm trying to think if there was any moment where I ever was, but I kind of don't think that there was. And I send people there because in the value category, it is on the Skyliner.
Yes,
and,
it is.
It is close to Art of Animation. Also on the Skyliner. It's connected by a bridge. It's a long walk, but technically you can walk it. You can. But yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you. I hope I didn't embarrass you.
You didn't embarrass me. I just literally had to think about it for a second. I've driven past it.
That's hilarious.
We maybe in a race have to. Yeah, no.
That would be fitting. That the time you go to Pop, you're running in front as fast as you can by it, so you don't have to stop.
I've been past it.
Let's talk a little history. Pop Century, I think for me, is probably got the best or one of the best histories of any resort on property because of the story behind it. Of course, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this boom of people going because Hollywood Studios had just opened.
Yeah.
It wasn't very big at that time, but Epcot had celebrated 10 years by then. Magic Kingdom, they had just opened, Disney World had just opened Grand Floridian.
Yep.
Port Orleans had opened. Dixie Landings had changed to Port Orleans, sometime later. So that was open. But there had to be this need for not just a value resort, but also a resort to put conventions, to put your cheerleading groups and put large student groups because they were all coming to Disney World. Wouldn't know where to put them. There was nowhere to go. So they were going off property. So these student groups were like, okay, we can pay, $300 a room to stay here, or we can pay $65 a room over here off property. Disney's like, no, we're going to get you on property. So they created the All-Star Sports, the All-Star Music, which were open in 92, 94, somewhere in there. Movies opened up in 99. So then they decided they were going to create something that was a slight step above the values, because the values were all grouped together. So they're going to build something a little bit different, but not quite a moderate. So they decided to create something called Pop Century. The whole issue with Pop Century is they were going to create two parts of it. The classic years, which is what exists now. And that's the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Each one has its own different section. And of course, you look behind me, you'll see this is where we are here. The 60s right there in the middle. There's the 50s and 60s, 70s, 90s over here on the other side of my head. That's and as you walk around, you're going to see these really cool, like, giant Rubik's cubes, giant bowling pins, giant yo-yos, giant laptops, whatever. And these are the staircases and stuff. And they're all built. Each section has things for that era. Kind of kitschy little things. And so the other plan was to do the legendary years, and they had built this bridge called the Generation Gap Bridge, which goes from one section to the other section. The other section was going to basically mirror Pop Century as it exists. So you would have the same buildings in the same place, except they would be the O's, the teens, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, based on all of those years. And so they would have their own lobby, they would have their own parking lots and things like that. So all of that would be basically Pop Century Part 2, the exact same stuff over there. And then 9/11 happened, as we've talked about before. And I know we've gone through some of this story too, but we're going a little more in depth here. 9/11 happened. Tourism around the country took a nosedive. This is when Disney went into absolute cost-saving mode. If you look back in history, a lot of things stem from that. The dining plan, free dining, came not too long after that. They had massive incentives where you could stay 3 nights, get a fourth night free. You bought a 3-day, 4-day ticket, get a 5th day free. Just stuff that we're looking at now going, Disney did that?
Yeah.
Holy crap. It was just a big deal because they had to. Because
tourism in general had to do something because it was cruise
lines were down. Universal was struggling. I mean, Universal almost went bankrupt before they got Harry Potter coming in. That's a whole different story, whole different episode.
Story,
but everything was just whatever. So, and they had not even opened Pop Century yet. So they were trying to get Pop Century open. All the guests who had reserved rooms they're supposed to open in March 2002. So all the guests who had rooms reserved at Pop, they were moved to other hotels. No opening date was announced. The whole complex sat not used for 2 years. The classic years section finally opened in December of 2003. The resort was hugely popular, but they never worked on the legendary years. And as a matter of fact, you could actually walk across that bridge to a certain point. There was a fence there. You could look over the fence and it's all grown up. It's all grown up. The weeds are there.
Yeah.
I had heard rumors there were homeless people that had tried to move in there.
Because
they had one building built, which is what we know as the Little Mermaid building. And that's it. There was just a bunch of other random construction there. Now, I'm sure on the internet you can probably find people that have pictures of this over there, whatever. But people are wondering, when are they going to finish this? So So from end of 2003, early 2004, Pop Century is open. Skip ahead 6 years to 2010. This land is just sitting there with nothing. This thing is just there's nothing there.
Yeah.
2010, Disney decided they were going to be completing the resort on the legendary year side. However, they were going to call it Art of Animation. It's a value-tiered hotel made up of family suites, and they were going to theme it to Finding Nemo, Cars, The Lion King, and Little Mermaid. And imagine, around this time in the 6 years, Disney has purchased Pixar. Cars is massive. Toy Story is massive. Finding Nemo, at the time, one of the 10 highest money-making movies ever. Of course, we have Little Mermaid as well. Lion King is just still a massive presence in the parks at this time. Lion King's only 15 years old at this point, as opposed to the 30 that's going on now.
Oh my gosh, you're lying. Quit lying.
My 23-year-old, 24-year-old niece, whatever, just posted on Facebook yesterday something about her 10-year high school reunion. She's like, I feel so old. I'm like, May will be 30,
Madeline.
May will be 30 years for me. 30 years since high school. But I digress. So they were going to build this out based on the properties. Now, people have often wondered why they didn't just redo Pop Century. 2 reasons. One, they now had all this intellectual property, this IP property they wanted to use. And if you look at Disney history and look at the resorts and properties and stuff and look at the rides, we started seeing more and more things built on these existing properties, the Lion King, the Cars, and the Nemo and such. Like old rides were getting renovated, putting know the properties in there. Pixar Pier is the whole section now in Disney California Adventure based on Pixar. Got hotel coming based on Pixar because it's such a massive presence. And so they also wanted to do family suites because All Star Music had family suites, but they were sold out all
constantly
because they only have like 30, 40, 60 of them, whatever, out of 2,000 rooms.
Right.
And so they decided to build the suites for Art of Animation. However, we had this one building there with rooms already existing. They could completely destroy that entire building, raise the whole thing and build new buildings, or they could just redo it.
Leave it. Yeah.
And they did. Themed to the Little Mermaid. So that's your standard rooms, which if you find on pricing, those are going to be a little higher than your value rooms, sometimes a little higher than Pop Century, sometimes definitely higher than
always higher than All Stars.
Yeah, All Stars and stuff, because they're more premier because it's Art of Animation. Art of Animation, gorgeous resort, which we'll have to do an episode on that later on. But they built the family suites in the 3 buildings, the Nemo, the Lion King, the Cars. And so now we have Art, we have Pop, and that's why you have 2 resorts who have no crossover in theming whatsoever across the bridge from each other, and you can walk from one to the other in 5 minutes. It's just right across the bridge. Right, it is right there. Of course, when the Skyliner came in, they put the Skyliner station right there on the bridge. So you could walk across to the Skyliner, and as you're standing on the Skyliner, you look over there and you're like, oh, there's Art. There's the Little Mermaid, like right there. It's really, 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 really cool. So talking a little bit about Pop Century itself, as it stands in its present day, we're looking at about 2,900 rooms. I think 2,880 was the last count. Opened December 14th, 2003, 19 years ago. This year will be 20 years based on the 20th century American pop culture. It is over in the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex area. It's also in the Epcot area, as they would say.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, when the legendary years sat there empty, they would use that parking lot as the overflow for ESPN Wild World of Sports. So some of the things you'll find at Pop Century. Let's talk about the food. Of course, you've got the Everything's Pop gift shop food court right there together. And Jen, you'll just have to imagine this, but as you walk through the gift shop, you go into the food court. It's basically the food court is sitting there with the gift shop right in front of it. You have to go through, unless you go outside and around into another opening, you basically walk into the food court from the gift shop, and they've got a lot of, it's your basic value resort gift shop and food court. You've got your chicken stuff here, and there's some pizza, and over here is your burgers, and they've got a pastry thing, and you're not going to find any specialty dining or anything like that. They've got special diet. They can do special diets there.
Okay.
To a point. It is a value resort. So whereas you might get something very, very special at Captain's Grill or Yacht and Steakhouse or whatever they're calling it now, at Yacht and Beach Club, you're not going to find that at Pop Century. They might be able to do a few things, but so don't go in there with huge expectations of their counter services and such. They have a little bar there sitting poolside, which I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called the Pedals Pool Bar.
Okay.
And they've got specialty drinks and stuff. And of course, they do different things around the pools and things like that. They do different
like games and stuff
for the kids and things like that. It's not an overly large resort. It's big, but it's not massive, which is nice.
Sure.
I always recommend preferred rooms. Anytime you stay at a value, I recommend preferred because your transportation is your bus transportation to the Magic Kingdom and to Epcot. But now you have the Skyliner, which will take you to Hollywood and Epcot. Bus transportation to Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom. That's it. Skyliner to Epcot and Hollywood Studios over here. And which I stayed here in December for 5 nights. First time I'd stayed there in a couple of years. I loved my stay there. My room was a standard room. It was in the 60s building. And it was almost like the midpoint between the front desk and the Skyliner. And I was very happy with, even though I didn't have a preferred room, I was extremely happy with where I was. The 60s building to me is kind of the place to be. If you're going to be standard, request the 60s building, or I will request it for you when you book your trip with me. I book a ton of Pop Centuries because, when I'm giving value resorts, when I'm giving options for categories for rooms and stuff, I always give Pop Century if I can, because it's a great resort. You walk in, the beds are comfortable, the pillows are comfortable. When it's just 1 or 2 people, it's comfortable. I think if you have 2 adults and 2 small children, 5, 6, 7 years old, it's comfortable. Once you get into the 4 adults, once you get into the older teenagers, especially boys that tend to be really big and husky, get a little cramped in there, but that would go for anything. You can only fit 4 to a room. You cannot fit 5.
There's no 5.
Unless you have an infant, you can do 4 plus a 2-year-old or something.
But then it's going to be kind of cramped if you got a pack and play.
Especially pack and play, because there's not a lot of room for the pack and play. They have a table as you walk in. The table and everything, of course, lifts up the bed comes down, the table
whatever it goes.
Yeah,
it
it's a
goes.
Murphy bed, too. So I would definitely recommend that. I would recommend this for people who are on a budget, but they don't want to go. And I don't want to use the word bottom of the line because that's not all stars. All stars are great, but somebody who wants a little bit more than all stars. So go with that. Somebody who loves nostalgia, somebody who loves like pop culture-y stuff, bright colors, big icons. ESPN goers probably could stay here too because you're close to ESPN.
Yeah, it is.
The Skyliner to me is a massive deal and is a game changer. And I didn't really understand how much of a game changer it was until I stayed somewhere like a value resort that had the Skyliner.
And I would say that is a selling point for Pop. To me, even over, in some cases, I mean, again, we know I'm a bougie girl. We know, like, if I'm saying moderate, I prefer like Coronado Springs. Like that's what I like.
Right.
But I will say, having just recently stayed at a moderate at Disney, which it was lovely. It was fine, but it's buses everywhere. Like having that, having the Skyliner would have been really nice.
Yes.
So
now I will say there is a downside to Pop Century because it is so popular. The bus transportation from Magic Kingdom and Animal
that
Kingdom
would be the
Pop
downside.
Sometimes is horrendous. The last time I went was coming from Magic Kingdom. And again, this is just me, and I don't mind waiting in line. I can do that. I'll throw my earbuds in, listen to a podcast, listen to our podcast, or the Imagineers podcast, catching up on them. And so I'll pop my earbuds in and listen to a podcast as I'm waiting in line. I'm fine. Last time I went, the line to get out of the Magic Kingdom to go back to the resort was 3 bays long. And what I mean by a bay is as you're walking down, you see, oh, there's Saratoga Springs, and get in line here for Caribbean Beach, get in line there for the All-Stars. This was 3 of them. And the line went all the way down to the end of the 3rd one, back up again, back down, back up. Just the line was horrendous. Going to the Magic Kingdom, because I wasn't there early enough, the line was very, very long. Now, they brought bus after bus after bus, so they were bringing them in fast. But those lines can get really, really long. So just understand the transportation. That's going to be at any value resort, because honestly, Disney wants to get you back to the resort, but they're making sure the deluxe people are right there in the front, like Polynesian and Grand Floridian. Those bays for the buses are close to the front, although Grand Floridian, you take the monorail. And so,
or you can walk,
or you can walk as well. But I mean, so they do give some of the preferential treatment to the deluxe resorts and even the moderates. So that is one of the downsides. But Pop Century has 3 pools. They have the Hippy Dippy pool. It's the largest one. It's over the 90s area. They have a computer pool and they have a bowling pool. And so, yeah, I mean, that's your Pop Century update right there. They do have services for kids. They have babysitting services, which are off property. You can call them. Disney does not do them, but they do allow babysitting to come.
But they do allow them to come,
kids and stuff. Like I said, they have different things for the kids to do. They have bingo. They have an arcade there. They have movies under the stars every night. So yeah, I love Pop Century. I'll be honest with you, it's probably one of my 4 or 5 favorite resorts on property, just because of the value it is, the location, the amenities, what you get, depending on where we are, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm coming by myself and I have to be, let's just say the half marathon coming up, Princess Marathon, you said, hey, I'm going to pay your way. You can stay at Pop or Saratoga Springs. I'm probably going to stay at Pop because the Skyliner's there. For that,
I'm probably still staying at Saratoga, but
now if I'm doing a total vacation, if I'm doing a good long vacation, with the family, whatever, of course I'm going to Saratoga Springs, if I have the option and the money is right. But if it's just me and a buddy or whatever, and we're going to be up late, up early, whatever, we don't have kids to deal with. I mean, Pop, there's nothing wrong with Pop at all. So that is your update on Pop Century. Jen, anything to add about Pop Century?
It is very colorful. It is very colorful. I've not stayed there. Listen, there are, I think, 2 properties that I've not stayed in on property. I have, because we discussed now, and if we're going to count.
No, you were at music.
I was at music.
And you're counting all of the All-Stars as one.
I am counting the All-Stars as one property. I know technically there's 3, but but I'm going to say, but I did stay at the All-Stars because I stayed at music when I was in college. Right. The only ones I have not stayed in at this point are Pop and Art of Animation. I've stayed at Coronado in both the tower and an outer building. I've stayed at French Quarter, Riverside. I've stayed at, all of the deluxes, including, the Swan and Dolphin are not a deluxe, and they're not technically on property, but I have stayed there. So, so there is that. So I really have stayed everywhere else. I'm trying to think of an exception. I can't, because I've stayed like in poly regular rooms, poly villa rooms. So,
well, if you're counting, if you're going to count the All Stars as one, I'm going to count Boulder Ridge and Copper Creek all part of Wilderness Lodge, and I'm going to count Bay Lake as a part of Contemporary because they're kind of all there together. So if we're doing that, I have not stayed at Riviera and I have not stayed at Old Key West. That's
you know what? I haven't stayed at Old Key West. I'm going to go 3. I've driven through Old Key West, but I've never stayed there.
Everything else I've stayed at least 3 nights in at some point in time over the course of my travels. Many of them more than 3 nights. Probably the most themed resort you're going to find is Art of Animation.
I would agree with that.
Very themed.
I would agree with that.
You walk into a Nemo room and that room is blue. I mean, you're like, oh, it's like the ocean here. I mean, that is
now they're trying to like the new Polynesian Moana rooms though are they're pretty well themed.
Well, they're themed, but they're also touch themed, as in like it's not all up in your face.
It's not in your face.
Like on the headboard here, and there's a touch of the thing there, whatever. You walk into a Lion King room, and the walls are kind of a greenish gray because it's for the jungle. You pull that Murphy bed down, and there's Simba sleeping on a hammock on the painting there. The cars theming in the car suites. The seats are like bucket seats from a car. The dresser is a toolbox. It looks like a toolbox you have in the garage. I mean, it's it's great. I love it. But
very cute. I have people who love Art of Animation.
But for you and Brady, that's probably not your theming. That's probably not your
really
jam. So whatever. If I'm by myself and I'm like,
what? Mary Poppins Grand Floridian? What?
Exactly. That's the theming you need. Theming you need. So there is our stay at Pop Century. Of course, you can find me at the Magic on a Dollar on Instagram and Magic on a Dollar and Disney on a Dollar on Facebook. And of course, follow me for all the stuff next week on the Wish. I'll be wishing through the Caribbean and Nassau and Castaway Cay and posting as much as I can, trying to get as much content as I can for you fine people out there. Jen, where can we find you? Because you're going to be at Disney in a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, I'm at Upon a Star Jen, and then my personal Instagram is at Jen_Novotny, which I did do a pretty good job of posting when I was just down there.
Yeah, you did.
And then I also was doing some lives on our agency TikTok as well with my amazing 1-bedroom at Coronado Tower.
You got upgraded, didn't you?
I did got an upgrade, little pixie dust. So
they knew who you were. You walked in, they were like, Jen's here.
You can never expect it, but sometimes it's really cool.
So here's my impersonation of Jen and I doing an episode about All Stars. Okay. I'm talking. So the All Stars were opened up in 1992 is when we got All Star Sports. Not too long after that was 1994 and music came in. And Jen, you said you'd say the music before, right? Jen? I'm sorry, what? Yes, what? Yes. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, so we'll do that anyway. We'll have to do that pretty soon.
We will have to do one on the All Stars. We're gonna try to make it through all of the resorts. On certain ones, I'll have more to contribute because again, this one is one of the ones that I have not stayed in. So
you'll get there. Well, I say you'll get there. We'll see. It's one of those, as we asked last week during listener questions, what would it take for you to stay there? And you're like, I would stay at Pop Century for the Skyliner if I had to.
I can say the Beach Club or Pop Century. I'm probably going to go say a Beach Club.
The problem is if everything is sold out for whatever event's going on, including some stuff off property, Pop Century will not be available.
That's true.
Literally, sports is usually the one that's left over, and a lot of times, and honestly, I don't know how much longer that's going to last.
Well, because it is being redone,
and it looks great. It looks fantastic. The update.
But right now, I still wouldn't until I knew that it was. I knew it was like, okay, now it's done.
Right. And you've already been told you cannot sleep on the couch of the Grand Floridian. They will not allow you to do that. You cannot stretch out on the Mary Blair couches in the Contemporary lobby. They won't let you do that at all. And although I will say this, at the Contemporary, when they don't have any events going on, there are those massive long hallways on the 5th and 6th floor. There's nothing. There's nothing up there. You can just walk through there. Center. It's empty.
Yeah.
You could easily just pull up a chair up there and just snooze and probably go to the bathroom.
I've seen people do that. Are you kidding me? I've totally seen people do that.
So sports is not your last option. There's always the 5th floor of the Contemporary to kind of just find a corner in there and just kind of,
I mean, I don't know if they'd let me do that all night, but
well, you just have to be like, Josh knows me. It's okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Exactly. For Jen, I am Dave, and this is the Meteorological Podcast. Don't forget to thank your Phoenicians.
Thank you for listening to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the MSE Podcast, or visit our website at themsepodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe, and may all your wishes come true.